Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Lew. One of the problems with being on the lower part of the totem pole here is you wind up with a lot of the questions already have been asked before. So let me just go through some things to kind of clean up a couple of questions that brought up into my mind. One of the things with regards to the investigation going on with...
I apologize, I can't hear you because of the door.
There we go. Okay, one of the questions that I hope that this afternoon when you talk to your new commissioner and discuss with him his investigation is not only to have him investigate what Ms. Lerner and her group were doing with regards to the conservative folks in her tax-exempt department, but also the request that was made by lots of folks with regards to the liberal groups and not investigating those. I have sent you personally about 3,000 documents and a request to investigate one. I have sent you a letter last week to also again ask for this investigation to take place, and that was 3 years ago and was never given any sort of anything but a stonewall over the last 3 years. So I think that this investigation should be broader than just looking at the conservative groups. It should be looked at on the lack of action with regards to investigating the liberal groups. And as the gentleman from New York said, the oversight that was supposed to be provided with regards to those activities. One of the questions that came up also with regards to SIFI designation, I know that in discussing with a lot of the banking circles, the definition is very concerning to them from the standpoint that a while ago you made the comment, and I think it's in your testimony yesterday also, with regards to size. You also made the comment that perhaps the risk and the activities that they take should also be taken into consideration. So do you have a preference in that, if whenever you start looking at a designation for banks with regards to systemically important financial institutions, whether that should be size or whether it should be based on risk of the activities they're engaged in?
I think that size is one of the characteristics that suggests risk, but it's certainly not the only one. You can have a large institution that is very well capitalized and entirely safe. You can have a medium-sized institution that it plays a role in the financial marketplace that is far in excess of its size and creates more risk. So I think it has to be a balanced approach.
Well, I appreciate that because I think that's, to me, that's the direction that we need to go. Following up on Chairman Hensling's question a while ago with regards to the kinds of questions that the IRS should be able to ask its citizens with regards to compiling their tax returns and investigating their activities, are you intending to go through the types of questions that are on some of these forms to try and winnow out some of these unnecessary and very actually obtrusive questions with regards to getting into the private lives of individuals?
I mean, I think that in terms of the facts that we've seen with regard to this set of determinations on 501c4s, they clearly went to an unacceptable place, and I've made clear that we need to fix that. So it's going to be the job of the IRS commissioner to take the lead on that, but it is something that I will continue to pay attention to, being respectful of the line between Treasury and IRS, not reaching into the administration of the tax system, because frankly I do think that would run the risk of politicizing things in a way that it shouldn't. So this is not...
Will you take him this message this afternoon then when you talk to him, that say this was brought up in our committee today, that the kinds of questions you ask are more than intrusive, that there needs to be a streamlining of this process to get back to finding out the facts of things they need to worry about and not the facts they don't need. Is that a conversation?
I will share the message, and my own view is we should only ask for the information that's necessary, not more.
Okay, thank you very much on that. Following up on one other thing that's of concern to me with regards to FSOC, you know, your organization has the responsibility, according to one of its purposes, to respond to emerging threats to the stability of the United States financial system. And I fail to see in the report recommendations on things that happened to actually minimize those threats or find a way to keep them back in the future. For instance, the London whale situation, I fail to see where FSOC promulgated any new rules. With regards to the Fed's QE program, I see nothing in there that ever even mentions that. At what point are you going to support winding it down? Are you going to continue to support the quantitative easing program? You know, my concern is that, and in response to some of your questions on these things, you kept saying, well, it needs time to do this, not to do that. Mr. Secretary, it's kind of like a doctor waiting for the cancer to take over the patient. If we don't start doing something pretty soon on some of these things, it's not going to happen at all.
If I could just respond very briefly.
Briefly, Mr. Secretary.
I think if you look at the report and the recommendations, and it identifies the areas that FSOC believes are the areas of greatest risk. It does lay out for the next year the things that we should be looking at, and this will be an evolving list as we go forward. But take wholesale funding, for example. That's a big risk. There's a lot of activity to be had there. So I think we do go through and identify the big systemic risks, and I'd be happy to follow.